healer, awesome in power, Yahuwah, Yahuwah. Yahuwah is greater, Yahuwah is stronger, Yahuwah is higher than any other. Yahuwah is healer, awesome in power, Yahuwah, Yahuwah. Yahuwah is greater, Yahuwah is stronger, Yahuwah is higher than any other. Yahuwah is healer, awesome in power, Yahuwah, Yahuwah. And if Yahuwah is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if Yahuwah is with us, then what can stand against? And if Yahuwah is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if Yahuwah is with us, then what can stand against? And if Yahuwah is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if Yahuwah is with us, then what can stand against? Stand against. Stand against. And if Yahuwah is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if Yahuwah is with us, then what can stand against? And if Yahuwah is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if Yahuwah is with us, then what can stand against? And if Yahuwah is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if Yahuwah is with us, then what can stand against? Stand against. Stand against. If Yahuwah is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if Yahuwah is with us, then what can stand against? And if Yahuwah is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if Yahuwah is with us, then what can stand against? And if Yahuwah is for us, then who could ever stop us? And if Yahuwah is with us, then what can stand against? Stand against. Stand against. Stand against. Stand against. We praise him for all that he's doing, all that he's done, and all that he's yet going to do in the lives of us, his people. At this time, we're going to turn our attention to Yahush, the son of Nun, as it is one of our, keep this in our hearts and in our minds, especially those of us at times when we are estranged from, and not in a negative way, from the whole nucleus or from all of us as a people. It's very important that we remember to keep this because I know we have family all across the land, and sometimes being alone, you have to remember you can't let the Torah out your mouth. It has to maintain, and I know at times it can be challenging. I won't say difficult, but I'll say challenging. Love something, and you in love this, you love, you just don't love it, but you're in love with this way of life. It's one thing to love something, but it's another thing to be in love with it. It is important that you maintain that way of life. Why is it important? It is important because it's all we know and it's all we want to know. And like I say, once again, it's not just about loving this way, it's about being in love with this way of life. And when you're in love with this way of life, you're in love with the one that's over this way of life, which is Yahuwah. And you love everything that he gives. You're in love with his son. You're in love with his Torah to please him. And that is important. That's so important for us as a people. And that's one of the things that helps to keep us and constrains us, because we do ahab him. Ahab, love, you do, and you don't want to do anything to hurt him, and you don't want to do anything to basically go backwards. spirits, your desires to keep moving forward and never go backwards, forward ever, backward, no sinking, always swimming, because you want to maintain your momentum and your consistency in Him. And so that's important for us to remember. We want to turn our attention once again to Yahush, the son of Nun, which is the writings of Joshua, chapter 1. And we want to begin at verse 6. This is the Abba speaking to Yahush as he is taking over the command and to lead the children of Yasharal. Now, I know many of us are wondering, well, why, is this important? It's important because you want to get the encouragement out of it. You want to be encouraged and remember that no matter what, you got to keep the Torah in your mouth. It's not just about Morays, and those that are in position. Because as far as they go, we're all in a position that is important, that we never, ever allow it to escape our mouths. Does that mean that we have to walk around all day saying, spewing out Torah scriptures and so forth? No, but when it is in your heart, it will come out of your mouth. Mm-hmm. You will speak it. I don't care what. When you have to pull and it's time to pull from something, you're going to pull from that what is most important to you. And that's where you're going to go to the writings, because that's where your strength is. That is where our stability is. That's where our lifeline. That's our lifeline. That's where we draw our life from, His instructions for our lives. So it's important that we maintain that. Verse 6 says, be strong and of a great courage, for to this people shall you divide for an inheritance the land which I swore to their Abbas to give them. Verse 7, only be you strong and very courageous, that you may observe to do according to all the Torah which Moshe my servant commanded you. Turn not from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may prosper wherever you go. Verse 8, as I've tailored it to fit our time of confession, I didn't take anything out, just a time for us to as a whole confess it personally. Once again, I know there are times, especially in the time we're in, very frustrating and challenging times, but in spite of that, we still have something greater than anything that's going on, and that's His instructions for our lives. And if we adhere to it, we will succeed and prosper, regardless of where we are, whether we're starting from the bottom, starting all over from number one, square one, whatever you want to say. We still will win if we keep His instructions for our lives at the forefront of our lives. We can't lose. We can't lose. All right, repeat with me. I will not let this scroll of the Torah depart out of my mouth. But I shall meditate therein. Yom and Layla. That I may observe to do. According to all that is written in it. For then I shall make my way prosperous. And then I shall act wisely. Now look at your neighbor and tell your neighbor, you shall act wisely. And you shall act wisely. Look at your other neighbor and tell your other neighbor, you shall act wisely. And you shall act wisely. Take your hand and place your hand over your heart and say, Abba Yahuwah, I shall act wisely. Come on, Abba Yahuwah, I shall act wisely. Come on, one more time. Abba Yahuwah, I shall act wisely. I endeavor to act wisely. I endeavor to act wisely. Come on, I endeavor to act wisely. And it is so. And it is so. In order for us to maintain a place of prosperity and to maintain, it is important that we act wisely. Another rendering for this in this verse, it might be in your King James version or in another version, and you shall have great success. In order to have success, you got to be a person of wisdom. You got to be a person of wisdom. Anybody have ever played 21? You've ever played poker? I'm not a poker player, but I played 21, and I played other card games. And when playing, you got to know how and when to hold them cards. And wisdom says when you are trying to win and you ain't just trying to be greedy, you understand there's a time to fold, there's a time to get hit, and there's a time when you stand. And there are times that we are to be still and wait before we start moving and doing things. And then there's a time that we're to keep moving in the Abba so that we can maintain. So that's important too. But this is a verse that is very important unto our success, and it shows us how to conduct ourselves. It helps us with the code of conduct so that we will be able to conduct our lives in a manner that is pleasing to the Abba. And guess what? Then it'll be an example and an encouragement to somebody else's life. because they'll see us doing the things that the writings constantly say we are to do. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Let us have another song, please. I'll say yes, Yahuwah, yes, to your will and to your way. I'll say yes, Yahuwah, yes. I will trust you and obey. When your Ruach speaks to me, with my whole heart I'll agree. And my answer will be yes, Yahuwah, yes. I'll say yes, Yahuwah, yes, to your will and to your way. I'll say yes, Yahuwah, yes. I will trust you and obey. When your Ruach speaks to me, with my whole heart I'll agree. And my answer will be yes, Yahuwah, yes. I'll say yes, Yahuwah, yes, to your will and to your way. I'll say yes, Yahuwah, yes. I will trust you and obey. When your Ruach speaks to me, with my whole heart I'll agree. And my answer will be yes, Yahuwah, yes. I'll say yes, Yahuwah, yes, to your will and to your way. I'll say yes, Yahuwah, yes. I will trust you and obey. When your Ruach speaks to me, with my whole heart I'll agree. And my answer will be yes, Yahuwah, yes. I'll say yes, Yahuwah, yes, to your will and to your way. I'll say yes, Yahuwah, yes. I will trust you and obey. When your Ruach speaks to me, with my whole heart I'll agree. And my answer will be yes, Yahuwah, yes. I'll say yes, Yahuwah, yes, to your will and to your way. I'll say yes, Yahuwah, yes. I will trust you and obey. When your Ruach speaks to me, with my whole heart I'll agree. And my answer will be yes, Yahuwah, yes. I'll say yes, Yahuwah, to your will and way. I'll say yes, Yahuwah, yes. I will trust you. When your Ruach speaks to me, with my whole heart I'll agree. And my answer will be yes, Yahuwah, yes. I'll say yes, Yahuwah, yes, to your will and to your way. I'll say yes, Yahuwah, yes. I will trust you and obey. When your Ruach speaks to me, with my whole heart I'll agree. And my answer will be yes, Yahuwah, yes. I'll say yes, Yahuwah, yes, to your will and to your way. I'll say yes, Yahuwah, yes. I will trust you and obey. when your Ruach speaks to me. With my whole heart I'll agree, and my answer will be yes, Yahuwah, yes. I'll say yes, Yahuwah, yes, to your will and to your way. I'll say yes, Yahuwah, yes. I will trust you and obey when your Ruach speaks to me. With my whole heart I'll agree, and my answer will be yes, Yahuwah, yes. I'll say yes, Yahuwah, yes, to your will and to your way. I'll say yes, Yahuwah, yes. I will trust you and obey when your Ruach speaks to me. With my whole heart I'll agree, and my answer will be yes, Yahuwah, yes. Come on, praise Him. We appreciate the Abba for all that He's doing, all that He's done, and all that He's yet going to do in the lives of us, His people. Now it is time for our affirmation. Once again, you hear me say, and I'll continue to say, it is important that we understand our direction, and it's important that we understand that everything we do is for our development and growth. We want to not just develop, but we want to grow. We don't want to just grow, we want to develop. We want them to be hand in hand. Um, Things can develop, but if there is no growth, that means that it's developing, but it's abnormal. And we don't want that. We want to have growth as well as develop. If you've ever had a garden and you've gone to your garden and you see different things developing, but there is no growth, that means it's stunted. Oh, excuse me. And that means there's a possibility that one or two things, either that batch of seeds is contaminated or something has gotten to it that has caused it to be stunted. Um, on our land, we were growing tomatoes, and we were trying to figure out what was going on and why we wasn't getting the growth we needed. Well, we look on and there's these big old fat, green, nasty worms on there, caterpillars, and they were hornworms, and they were, I'm talking about eating the leaves up. I mean, they was eating even the stems. They was greedy, just eating. I'm like, it's growing, but we're not developing any tomatoes. What's the problem? It's because it had stunted it. I mean, we were getting that growth, but no development of tomatoes. So once we took that problem off, then we were able to see growth as well as development. Well, if the tomatoes develop and there is no growth, it still is not going to prosper, because then you're still going to be it's still you're going to end up losing because you won't get as much as you're supposed to. So it is imperative that we remember that growth with development is important and imperative, that we grow as well as develop. And these are some of the things, tools that we use to grow. And affirmations are just that, to affirm us each and every yom, uh, our purpose, why we do what we do, and also shows why we stopped doing some of the things that we were doing, because we truly want to grow. I want to grow. How about you? I do. I want to grow. I want to develop as well as grow. And so it is important that we have a platform that teaches us how to do these things. Very important that you have a platform. With a platform, it gives you direction. And so you're knowing what you're doing and you're not just spending energy. It's just like going in circles in the car. You know, people think that's cool, spinning out. That's not cool. You're burning gas and you're tearing up your tires. There's no, nothing productive about that. So we want to be productive, and it is so.
And it is so.
Repeat with me. I purpose to develop my ruach.
I purpose to develop my
I
ruach.
purpose to walk in the light of Torah.
I purpose to walk in the light of Torah.
I am Ibram.
I am Ibram.
I am born again.
I am born again.
I am Ibram.
I am Ibram.
I have the life and nature of Yahuwah
I have the life and nature of Yahuwah
in my ruach.
in my ruach.
That life is
That life is
the Torah of Yasharal.
the Torah of Yasharal.
I purpose to walk in
I purpose to walk in
the Torah of life.
the Torah of life.
Yahuwah's Torah,
Yahuwah's Torah
Yahush is in me.
is in me.
Yahuwah's knowledge
Yahuwah's knowledge
is in me.
is in me.
Yahuwah's aha
Yahuwah's ahah
is in me.
is in me.
Yahuwah's power
Yahuwah's power
is in me.
is in me.
Yahuwah's wisdom
Yahuwah's wisdom
is in me.
is in me.
He is teaching me.
He is teaching.
He is leading me.
He is leading.
I am a child of Yahuwah.
I am a child of Yahuwah.
The Ruach
The Ruach
HaKodesh
HaKodesh
of Yahuwah in me
of Yahuwah in me
is leading me.
is leading.
I'll follow her leading.
I'll follow her lead.
I'll walk in the Torah.
I'll walk in the Torah.
Yahush,
Yahush,
our Mashiach.
our Mashiach.
And it is so.
And it is so.
At this time, we're going to have our last song, and then we're going to go into our declaration and into our last confession. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. Let everything that has breath praise Yahuwah. 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 Yeah, 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 yeah. Let everything that has breath praise Yahuwah. Let everything that has breath praise Yahuwah. Let everything Let everything that has breath praise Yahuwah. Let everything that has breath praise Yahuwah. Let everything that has breath praise Yahuwah. Yeah, 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 let everything that has breath praise Yahuwah. 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 Come on, praise him. At this time, we're going to do our declaration, and then from our declaration, we're going to do our final confession. Repeat with me, Abba Yahuwah,
Abba Yahuwah,
in the name of Yahush,
In the name of Yahush,
our Mashiach,
our Mashiach,
we subdue ignorance
we subdue ignorance
with Torah knowledge.
with Torah knowledge.
And through this knowledge
And through this knowledge
of Torah truth,
of Torah truth,
we claim healing,
we claim healing,
shalom,
shalom,
and deliverance.
and deliverance.
We decree
We decree
Torah truth
Torah truth
in the lives
in the lives
of your people,
of your people,
our people,
our people,
Yasharal.
Yasharal.
We unite,
We unite
not to fight,
not to fight,
not to fight,
not to fight,
not to fight
not to fight
each other,
each other,
each other,
each other,
each other,
each other,
but the enemy
but the enemy
of our belief.
of our belief.
And it is so.
And it is so.
Now let us bow before our King as we prepare to recite Tehillim 19 and 14. Repeat with me. May the utterance of my mouth
May the utterance of my mouth
and the deliberation of my heart
and the liberation of my heart
be desirable before you,
be desirable before you.
O Yahuwah,
O Yahuwah,
my rock
my rock
and my redeemer.
and my redeemer.
May the utterance of my mouth
May the utterance of my mouth
and the deliberation of my heart
and the liberation of my heart
be desirable before you,
be desirable before you.
O Yahuwah,
O Yahuwah,
my rock
my rock
and my redeemer.
and my redeemer.
And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so. You may be seated in His presence. Once again, we appreciate the Yaba for all that He's doing, all that He's done, and all that He's yet going to do. We appreciate life. We appreciate health. We appreciate strength. We just appreciate all that He is doing in the lives of us, His people. Truly, it is a Baruch to be back with you all. I know we were not on last week, as I said before, to let you all know. When you don't see us, I'll know you're in our prayers, and we're dealing with the inner circle of our congregation, and there are certain things that we discuss that I don't put up on the air or on the social media. So bear with us, pray with us, and know that we're still here. Stay with us, don't quit us. But just know that when it's those times, it is that we are going over stuff that is important for the maintaining and the continuity of this congregation. Because when we come before you, we want to make sure that everything that we present, whether it's song and definitely information, we want to make sure that we are giving you quality information, and then we want to be sure that we're presenting ourselves to you in a excellent way. I really want to use that word, but just to present to you. So I know many of you, I pray many of you are following that. All of us are keeping up with the news to a degree. I don't watch it all the time because that stuff can be very depressing. And the news always, they're going to make sure they kind of exploit and they kind of push it. And some stuff, it's good to just take small microbites and not really get yourself too engulfed in it, because it'll have you depressed, and before long you'll be really worried about things that we are not. Being said, they've defunded their police department, so now the police department has put out, along with the governor and the lieutenant governor, that they are supportive of the blue and white, and they have a sign when you're getting ready to go into Texas. Enter in at your own risk, at your own risk, and that there will be minimal help. Now, with that being said, many of us say, well, I don't fool with the police anyway. But for those of our mishpachah that do, and they depend upon them for help, it is important that not only do we pray, but we try to connect with them and stay connected. I don't know about you, but let me tell you something. Every time I leave, I carry a 9mm, and it is fully loaded. Why? Because I'm not going to let somebody run up on me and hurt me or mine. With that being said, what am I promoting? I am saying safety.
God.
I am telling you safety. It is important that you understand, guard the Torah, protect your family.
God.
And Yahshua is our family. God. And it's important that we understand, and if they can't get help from the police, then they ought to be able to get help from us. Now, I'm sure many of you may have heard of InFact, the brother Master J, who's out there doing his thing. He do what he do. And I'm not going to bash him. I'm not going to say anything negative about him, because he's doing what he feels and believes that he has to do. Now we know that the Abba is going to protect us and take care of us, but we also have a responsibility too to be protected and be aware of the times, what's going on and where it's going on.
God.
Yes, I am an advocate and I am for carrying a gun.
God.
Yes, I am. Because if you get in a situation and somebody's throwing fists at you, that's not the time for you to start praying. That's the time for you to defend yourself.
God.
That's right.
You have to defend yourself. Now, there are things that we know. You look back in the Maccabees, during the Maccabean times, you see where when they got into a situation, and some of those during the time of Antiochus Epiphanes, and there was a lot of them that would not fight during the Sabbath, and they ended up losing their lives. And then this is where you got Mattathias and his sons that came along and said, look, we understand we are supposed to adhere, and we're going to adhere to the writings and to the laws of the Abba, but we will not let another one of our people die. We're going to defend ourselves,
right.
and we're going to fight. And the Abba esteemed that.
Right.
We don't go out starting fights,
God.
but we need to be able to defend ourselves and protect ourselves. Now, with that being said, once again, I'm encouraging you. If you don't have one, then you need to understand you need something to protect yourself.
God.
And it's not going to get any better. And so it is important that we understand that we stay focused. Why should we stay focused? Because if you get caught off guard, that's when you end up getting into situations that are not favorable.
God.
It's very important that we understand that there's a lot going on. They're talking about famine, and we know there's famine. If you all have been watching the news, once again, there's a major recall in different places on onions because of what is E. coli or salmonella poisoning. You know what salmonella poisoning is? That means when cow feces gets mixed in with the that's the bacteria that gets in. It's in the feces, and then they take that, and that's how it's a runoff. And that runoff gets into whatever is being grown or is being put in there. And now, guess what? If that's what you're using to water your crops or whatever, now it's contaminated. Now you get it, you eat it, now you're sick. So it is important that we as a people begin to understand Hebrew businesses support your Hebrew farms. Find out where they are. If it's a drive, make that drive. It'll be worth it because you know you'll have peace of mind knowing that what you're putting in your mouth that's going to go into your body, it is healthy and it is clean.
That's right.
That is important. And so it's very important that we understand these things. Why? Because no matter what, all of these things are still a distraction to keep us unfocused, and to keep us in a position to where we're constantly trying to figure out what is our next move. We already know what our next move. Stand still in the Abba. When I say stand still, I'm not saying be still and do nothing. I am saying calm your ruach to know what the Abba is desiring of us through his son Yahushua Mashiach, and the times like now, what we need to do and how we need to do it.
God.
It is important and very imperative. If you've been going to any kind of stores, wherever you are in the States, some places are running out. Some places don't have anything. I know there's a place in California where they were talking about as Sam's, all the food was almost gone. So there was nothing left. So you have to understand this thing is sweeping across the land. And so it is important for us to understand guard and protection, guarding and protecting ourselves. There is no law against these things.
God.
And so it is imperative that we understand these things. And it is imperative that we reach out to one another and build healthy relationships. I may not be able to get to you. You may not be able to get to me. But it's important that we maintain contact. Because if you ever need our help, then it's imperative that we try to find a way to get to one another and help one another.
God.
Or we get word to somebody that's close enough to you to say, hey, they need help and we need you all to go and help them. Yo, it's down to that now. It's not about, like before, okay, well, they'll be all right. No, you got to understand when people put stuff out there like that, they're giving the criminals the green light to go ahead and do what they're going to do. And as a people, you got to understand who and will always be the number one target until the Abba delivers us through his son, Yahushua Mashiach. Right. And that is us as a people.
God.
So it is important that you understand these are trying times. And so we've got to understand that in these times, it is imperative that we have a plan. And your plan must include security. We can save all the food in the world and we can secure, but if you ain't got nothing to protect it with, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. So it is imperative and important that we be mindful of these things and be mindful of our Ox and Cody that are in the states that have defunded the police department, and keep in contact with them, and even and pray, if they don't own land, that they will consider relocating. Y'all, it's getting that serious. If you're renting a house, and my job, honey, that job is not that important. Your life is more important than a job. Because you can always go and find work somewhere else depending on your skill. But it's coming a time that there are very hard choices that we're going to have to make. And when I say hard choices, I'm talking about making a decision to leave a place that it is really about to become very challenging for you and your children. If you have young sons, that's something you need to consider. Young daughters, husband, wives. As a mishpachah, it is something that we must consider, especially when it comes down to safety.
That's right.
When it comes down to safety. So I wanted to put that out there. I wanted to speak from my heart and share with you all. And once again, yes, I'm an advocate of carrying a gun. And I believe that if you don't have one and you don't know how to use one, you need to learn. You need to get one and you need to learn how to use one. It is never in our desire to kill anybody. Never. So please don't get me wrong when I say what I say. But it is, if it ever comes to a point, is your life or theirs, you're going to let them take your life? The shedding of your blood does not bring nobody salvation. It does not cleanse anybody, and it surely doesn't save anybody. There's not but one person that was able to do that, and that was Yahushua HaMashiach.
That's right.
So it is important that we understand this, and this is real, and especially to my Codis. In the time we're living in, trafficking of women, you name it, from A to Z. You have to be prepared, and especially if you don't have a cousin, an uncle, you're not married, and you have nobody there to really be there. You need to be able to have something to defend yourself and know how, even if you don't have a gun, how to get somebody off you or keep them from coming to you. This is the time we're living in, and it's about, once again, having that relationship, connecting and contacting one another, to where we can be able to say, hey, this is what I'm going to be doing. I don't have anybody to tell, so I want to let you know this is where I'm going, this is what I'm doing. So in the event I come up missing, somebody knows and have had contact with me to know that that's not what I do. Especially those that are in truth, and you and your family may not be close. You need to find a contact person, a person of interest that you can say, hey, I'm about to go out, and it's not a burden, because if it was a burden, I wouldn't be putting it out here for us to be in a person's life. You may not know me, I may not know you, but hey, I'm just letting you know I'm going out, to the store. I'm going to take care of this business, and I just want somebody to know where I've gone. So in the event I don't come back to my destination, somebody knows my whereabouts and where I was supposed to be at a certain time. There's nothing wrong with that. Why? Because this is what we need, especially if you're not with a community or you're not connected with anybody. It's important that we do these things. Safety, once again, is first when it comes to us as a people. And the safest place is truly in the Torah. But let's not get it twisted. You still have a responsibility to take care of your family. I am responsible for you just as well as you're responsible for me. Y'all feel me? That's important. That's truly important. And it's important that we, especially our elderly, and especially those that are still young, you and I'm talking about young. It's important, because we don't want to get calls and be looking up on Facebook, my cousin or my sister's daughter went missing, this, that, and the other. Y'all, we can prevent a lot of these things if we use wisdom. We can prevent a lot of these things. No 10-year-old, no 11-year-old has any business walking up and down the street by themselves.
That's right.
My daughters are grown, and when we in the store, we constantly making contact. Where y'all at? What's going on? We had a situation, and we're going to get ready to get into the writings, but we had a situation when we were at Walmart, and this white guy came up to my oldest daughter. Now he didn't know that we were all together. She was standing waiting on us with her buggy, and it was her and her sister, and I believe Valerie, you were standing with them as well. No, y'all were at the checkout. Yeah, they were at checkout. My son and Valerie, his wife, they were at checkout, and we were kind of all, we were not scattered, but we could see one another because we always make eye contact no matter where we are. We have hand signals when we're in the store. We have sounds that we make when we're in the store, that if anything pops off, we know what to do, so that we ain't running around trying to figure out what to do. We already know what to do. We maintain contact even on our phones. We're constantly checking in every 5 minutes. Where are you? This is where I am. We're letting one another know. If you don't check in 5 minutes, we trying to figure out where you at, what's going on.
Come on.
Because those are things that are key for us as a people to maintain our safety. And so we were in the store, and I was at the checkout, and my ish was standing right there beside me. And this white man came up to her, and he was asking her, was she going to the bathroom to check on a friend of his because she was tired, this, that, and the other. And my daughter's kind of looking, and by that time, I ain't even through paying. I'm standing up over there, and my sons, we all over there, and we trying to figure out what you doing up in our daughter's face, asking her to go in the bathroom. And the cashier said, you could have asked me to do that. And he walked away. And he walked away, looking back. And I'm like, you don't want no smoke, bro. So I advise you to keep on pushing. So the thing, what I'm saying you is that if we would not have been there, which we're always together, think about how bad that could have gone. What if the girl that he was looking for, which she was not in there, would have been there with some knockout gas? Knock the girl out. Now they in there waiting, and then they take her out when ain't nobody looking. And all you do is get on the side of her, and well, she don't feel good. Now you take her to the car. Now you done stole her. But we made sure he understood, bro, you don't want none. So we advise you to keep it moving. Then we go out there, and the girl is in the car, and she walking around. We like, that's the girl he was looking for. So they met back up in Walmart, left out, and she drove away. And I made sure I gave her the nastiest stare that I could give her to let her understand and know, I know what you were trying to do. I know exactly what you were trying to do. And so you have to understand, these are the things and the games that people are playing for money, And so you got to be aware of your surroundings, know what's going on. And when people are telling you to protect yourself, don't take it as, well, I know what to do. I'm protecting myself, and I know the Torah is going to keep me. Yes, it is. And I don't doubt it whatsoever. I will never doubt it. But neither will I doubt ever protecting myself and being prepared. That's and right. Neither should you. And especially in the time that we're in, and it's going to get worse. If you haven't prepared and stocked up on your stuff, stock up on your stuff, your tissue, your paper towels, your dish detergent, your non-perishable items. Stock up on these things now while you can. Get your staples. It's still already a limit on things to buy. It is imperative, because there's coming a time you're going to go in that grocery store. Ain't nothing going to be in there.
That's right.
That's right.
And they're going to start. You got to understand, if they're already we're dealing with gentrification in certain places, don't you know they're going to start zoning areas to where now, if you don't live in that area, you ain't going to be able to shop in that area. And understand, we ain't talking about the mark of the beast yet, because that's what we're going to be talking about in a little bit.
Right.
But I'm talking about the government setting up a plan and a system to basically corral certain people to maintain in a certain area and other people in a certain area. They're going to do that. And this way they can basically keep certain things and certain money and certain people in certain areas and other people in certain areas. This is how they're able to know who's who and what's and where they are. Walmart is notorious for not stocking the shelves in certain areas, and then other stores you go to, it's like ain't nothing ever happened.
That's right.
So you got to understand, when you see these things going on, understand, once they start zoning and they start making these things, just like if you like here, there are certain places that if we go like to parks, recreational parks. If you are for a certain county, you have to pay. And if it's too full, you can't go in. If you go to a certain parks here and your license plate is for another county, you have to pay $10 or more to get into that park. Because it's only for the people in that area. So if they're willing to do that, you don't know what other extremes they're going to go through or go to in order to maintain a certain amount of people in a certain area. And then when people start complaining, we don't want them coming. They have their own. So it's important that we dare not throw caution to the wind, but that we use wisdom in what we're doing and how we're doing, and connect with people. If you know in your area you can buy more stuff, then hey, look, if I send you the money, can I trust you to buy it and send it to me? This is bartering. This is helping one another.
That's right.
This is what we need to do, because in doing so, guess what happens? We build relationships.
That's right.
Healthy relationships. And this is what we're going to need in this hour. If you know somebody that's farming, go and support them. And you can get to them, go support them, buy their vegetables. If they sell meat, buy it from them. If it's too high, hey, yo, work with me. You know, I can't afford that. That's kind of high, but if you can work with me, you know, I'll make payments on it. But work with me. You know, don't shut me out when I really need this. So these are things that we really need to look upon, and these are things that were on my heart and are continually on my heart for us as a people, because we're in that time. We're in a time once again of troubles. Troubles are upon us, and there's a lot of things that are yet to be revealed. But if we exert all of our energy by being foolish, when we need that energy for the real fight, we're gonna be burnt out. Anybody ever know as running? When I was younger and I ran track, one of the things I ran the 440, the 100-meter dash, and the 1400-meter race. The 1400-meter race is a distant race. So you don't go out of the starting blocks fast. You pace yourself. Because if you go out too fast, that's 4 laps around the track. If you go out too fast, you're going to burn yourself out. You reserve that energy to the latter part when you got those last 2 laps so you can lap everybody and you get that second win. That's what we have to do in order to reserve our energy for the real fight. Because this right here is not the real fight. It is a fight, but it's not the real fight. And it is also a means to distract.
That's right.
Are y'all feeling me this Sabbath? So I'm here to warn you and also encourage you to maintain. And if you haven't, get started now. And don't let anybody tell you, oh, we ain't got to do that. You know, why put up? Why do that? We don't have to do that. Yes, you do. Because if you don't have a reliable food source or a place where you're going to get your food, how are you going to eat? How are you going to feed your family? I was talking during the early part with one of my daughters, and she was telling me over in China for a bag of rice is what, $46? $40 and $60 for bags of rice. And y'all know who's gonna pay that much money for a bag of rice? You better get it while it's $2.50 and $1 something for what, 5 pounds for $2.48, and start stocking that stuff up. Because rice and beans make a good or a great meal. So it's important that we do these things. So I just want to encourage you, start canning your food, start doing these things. And when you can some stuff and put some stuff up, set aside 2 extra cans just in case you run into somebody that may need your help. Because they don't have anything. It ain't that they're not doing, that they're not trying. It's just at that moment, they just right now trying to maintain their head above water, and they may not have it. Set aside 1 or 2 cans so that if you run into somebody like that, you're able to help them. Just words of encouragement and just something to encourage you and to help us maintain and keep our footing. Because it's not getting that way. It is already that way. So I encourage you to do these things, because we are to protect one another. You guard the Torah, but we protect Yahshua. And that's one of the things that I want to encourage you to do. And we protect one another through our actions and just using wisdom. And it is so. And it is so. All right. As you see, on to Yom, we're going to be talking about unmasking the end time beast. And we're going to be discovering the beast of Daniel chapter 7. Those of you that have been following along, we are going through a series of understanding the anti-Mashiach, where he will come from. And, first and foremost, that Babylon really is a place, and America is not Babylon. And understanding Revelations chapter 13, understanding how we can decode it or decipher it intelligently to where we can truly prepare our people for that what is coming and that what is already taking place, so we're not looking in the wrong direction. I came across something. I have journals all over the place that I write scriptures and just kind of write my thoughts out. And I came across something that I had wrote about 7 years ago. And it reads, if your context is wrong, your conclusion will be wrong. I'm here to try to put our context back in its right perspective so that our conclusion will be right and not wrong. It has been wrong for so long that we have believed in a lot of stuff without evidence and without proof. We just went along with it because it was handed to us on a plate. And most of the time we took it because that's all we knew. We didn't know how to reject it or how to refute it because of who it came from and the time it came from. Many of us believe that, Rome was going to be the ones that will produce the anti-Mashiach and a lot of things that we believe. We believe that we were Christians and that we were just a people that were just here and we had no purpose. Only thing we knew was that we were slaves and that was it. We had no other, we had to fight for our destination. And to a degree, you still do until things are settled and everything has come to a conclusion. But now we understand we are that people. We are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, chosen by the Abba. We didn't basically put ourselves in this position. He chose us, and he chose us years and generations ago to be his people. And so now we are finding these things out through the writings. We're finding out that we were bamboozled using a translated Bible. They took the original writings, which is a Hebrew Bible, and they translated it to fit their own agenda and to fit their religious or their religiosity.
Yes.
And so this is what they did, and they had us under it. They used religion to keep us as slaves and to make us do whatever they wanted and still have some of us believing this very thing. But the Abba has given us a means and he's given us a way to come out of ignorance. But it's up to us to take that step and to follow the instructions that he's given unto us and to take the information and prove it. Prove it. Read, research. It's important that we do, because if the context is wrong, then our conclusion is going to be wrong. And that's what we have been in for years. That's why people are believing they're going to be raptured up out of here. That's why people believe that don't believe and speak against the Torah, the instructions of the Abba has been done away with. Why? Because of the context of their information.
That's right.
Has brought them to a conclusion that, hey, no matter what we do and how we do, we don't have to keep the commandments of Abba Yahuwah. We don't have to live like that. We're going to be raptured up. We're going to go to heaven and we're going to spend our lives with Jesus while everybody else suffers for 7 years. That's the translation of the King James Bible and everything that follows that.
Right.
But it's now time that we recognize that these things are a lie, was a lie, and still a lie. And for us to develop and grow, we must correct that. And so this is what I'm here to do, is to bring correction in the places error has been for so long. The Abba gave me 3 R's when I first came into truth: recovery, restoration, and true revival. 3 things, 3 R's: recovery, restoration, and revival. You have to recover it to restore it. And once it's restored, it is in a healthy place to be revived. If you try to revive something that is not, it's going to die because it's too weak. It's not, it won't take it. You got to understand, when you see people those doctors hit people with those defibrillators, those things send volts of electricity through the body. And if the body is not strong enough to handle it, it's going to kill them.
That's right.
It'll kill them. That's why they have to count the seconds in between they hit a person with that thing. And then you can't be nowhere near, because it'll kill you too.
That's right.
If your heart is already beating. So it's important that we understand revival is going to take place, but we've got to be in a place to be revived. It's important that we understand that. So on to y'all, we're looking at this once again, and we're finding our way to find out in this time, who should we be looking at and what should we be doing? because many people are saying, the mark of the beast is a number that you put 666 on your forehead, a what's that barcode, and so forth, and taking vaccinations, and all those things are wrong within the context. But let's not take it out of context, and let's not try to fit it in a context that it does not belong in. Okay. And that's what many times people have done. They've tried to make everything fit the anti-Mashiach and end times, and it does not. Yes, we're in time events and things are going to happen, but there are certain events that we can find clearly in the writings that show us what to look for, what to expect. So we know exactly, how to follow, just like instructions on a cake or pattern or whatever. Those instructions are put there for you to get the desired results.
That's right.
You start looking at different things, a pattern. If you follow the pattern, you're going to get that design just like it is. But if you go in cutting and saying, well, I'm going to cut a little off here, I'm going to, modify this or modify that, then by the time you finish, you're going to have a mess. You're going to have a mess. Why? Because you altered the pattern, which it did not call for. And so we're here once again to put into place what needs to be put into place. Once again, if our context is wrong, then our conclusion is going to be wrong. And we don't want it to be wrong. Now is not the time to be wrong. That's right. It is definitely not the time to be wrong. We've been wrong long enough. Now it's time to walk in that place of righteousness and do it right. And it is so. And it is so. All right. Now, unmasking the end time beasts. We're going to look at chapter 3, discovering the beast of Daniel 7, the horns and the little horn. I'm going to do some reading, and we're going to grab some scriptures, and we're going to go from there. I want to give you this information. It is paramount that we understand, and we're able to decipher. We're able to intelligently understand what the horns are and who they are and where they are. Because once we know these things, then we're able to picture or visualize these things and how it's supposed to take place. And it is so. And it is so. All right. In this book, we will examine who Daniel the prophet was speaking about, the fourth terrible beast that came up and was different from the previous three beasts. We will discuss why this beast is not Western Europe, as many believe, because of the rules of interpretation and the requirement that are needed for the last empire of the age, which does not fit with Western Europe. Now, this is important once again. If it does not fit, then we are not definitely going to force it. And many times people have put the European people, white people, in power and in a position that is not theirs. Now, we know they've done some horrible stuff, and we know that they continue to do horrible stuff. But you must understand, they are not that people of power.
That's right.
They're not that. So it's important that we understand that. Okay. All right. Daniel's apocalyptic book is the key to understanding the book of Revelation, and the rest of the writings must be in harmony with these prophecies. We indeed find that this is the case. Remember that Daniel was a captive in what is referred to in the writings as Babylon, which today is Iraq proper. Daniel the prophet was in the kingdom of the famous king Nebuchadnezzar. This was the first of the three deportations of the Ibram to Babylon. So we can establish Babylon a place even from here. So it's important that you understand. Check the phone. That Babylon is truly a place, and it is not in America. Many have said it's New York and other places, but let me tell you something. It is not. Babylon is a geographical, physical place.
That's right.
You're following me?
Yes.
It is a place. All right. This happened around about 605 BC. The king of Judah was Jehoiakim. At that time, the second deportation happened around 597 BC, when he took most of Yehuda's leaders, including the young prophet Ezekiel and the rest of the national treasures. Let's go to 2 Chronicles 36 and 10. Let's substantiate and build a platform for our information. And it is so.
And it is so.
All right, 36 and 10. Yeah, it's in it. So. 2 Chronicles Second Debrah Hayamim. 36 and 10.
And it is so.
All right. Mm-hmm.
And it reads, in the spring, Nebuchadrezzar sent for him and brought him to Babylon, along with the valuable utensils of Yahuwah's temple. Then he made Jehoiakim's brother Zedekiah king over Yehuda and Jerusalem. And it is so.
And it is so.
It is so.
So we know he was there. There's no refuting, no arguing. It is documented that he was there. Okay. Now let us look at 2 Kings 24, chapter 24, verses 10 through 17. Chapter 24, verses 10. Malachi, chapter 24, verses 10 through 17. All right. Let's read. Yeah.
It is so.
Oh. Come on. Now let's read the next one. Come on.
Malachi Bet, chapter 24, verses 10 through 17. Coming from the NIV. At that time, the officers of Nebuchadrezzar, king of Babylon, advanced on Jerusalem and laid siege to it. And Nebuchadrezzar himself came up to the city while his officers were besieging it. Jehoiakim, king of Yehuda, his mother, his attendants, his nobles, and his officials all surrendered to him. In the 8th year of the reign of the king of Babylon, he took Jehoiakim prisoner. As Yahuwah declared, Nebuchadrezzar removed all the treasures from the temple of Yahuwah, from the royal palace, and took away all the gold articles that Solomon, king of Yasharal, had made for the temple of Yahuwah. He carried into exile all Jerusalem, all the officers and fighting men, and all the craftsmen and artisans, a total of 10,000. Only the poorest people of the land were left. Nebuchadrezzar took Jehoiakim captive to Babylon. He also took from Jerusalem to Babylon the king's mother, his wives, his officials, and the leading men of the land. The king of Babylon also deported to Babylon the entire force of 7,000 fighting men, strong and fit for war, and 1,000 craftsmen and artisans. He made Mattaniah, Jehoiakim's uncle, king in his place, and changed his name to Zedekiah. And it is so.
And it is so. It is a geographical place, and we have proof as well as evidence to prove that he was there. And this is the place he was taken to. Are y'all following me? You can't dispute or refute evidence as well as proof. Now, the third final deportation took place 11 years later, around 586 BC. Daniel means Yahuwah is my judge. And Daniel's prophetic ministry was about 70 years, and he lived at least 85 years or more to a ripe old age. Now we're going to look at the verses concerned about the great prophet of Yahuwah. Let's go to Daniel chapter 7, and let's look at verses 7 and 8. It is important that we establish a line of credibility, a line to show forth the position of Daniel, and to show his character, and to show that he was called by the Abba to do what he was doing. This is important. Why is it important? Because without proof and without evidence, you have no case. And I'm here to help us to understand the end time Mashiach, or anti-Mashiach. Why? Because if you don't know what to look for, you're in trouble.
God.
We're in trouble if we don't know who to look for.
That's right.
We're in trouble if we don't know and understand what's taking place and what to look for. I can say all day long, there is a man out there that is lurking around, and he is basically preying on women. But if it's 100 men out there, what man are you talking about?
Right.
That means an innocent man is going to be accused of doing something that he's not done because he's standing around. He would end up being a what am I looking for? The word I'm looking for. He would be collateral damage. Thank you. Why? Because he's in the wrong place at the wrong time. So I have to be specific. He's a man. He's about 6'4". He's dark skinned. He has a mole over his eye. He has dark brown eyes, and he has a hoodie on, and he has on black and white tennis shoes, and he has on blue jeans, and on the back of his shirt it says "Go get it." Now I've given you a description of the person that you need to look out for. Not just a man, because if it's a bunch of men out there, every one of those men are going to be interrogated for being a man.
God.
You got to be specific. We have to be specific in our description. And when we're giving information, because it makes it unfair for an innocent person to suffer because of somebody not being able to give the right information out.
God.
That's important, very important for us as a people. Don't give out the wrong information. If you're not sure, then don't give it out.
God.
And it has to fit the description.
Right.
That's important. Very important. All right. Daniel chapter 7. And let's look at verses 7 and 8. And it is so.
And it is so.
Daniel chapter 7, verses 7 and 8. After that, as I looked on in the night vision, there was a fourth beast, fearsome, dreadful, and very powerful, with great iron teeth that devoured and crushed, and stamped the remainings with its feet. It was different from all the other beasts which had gone before it, and it had 10 horns.
Mm-hmm.
While I was gazing upon these horns, a new little horn sprouted up among them. 3 of the older horns were uprooted to make room for it. There were eyes in this horn like those of a man, and a mouth that spoke arrogantly.
And it is so. All right. Now I'm going to read it in this manner. After this, I saw in the night visions, excuse me, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, exceedingly strong. It had huge iron teeth. It was devouring, breaking in pieces, and trampling the residue with its feet. You know, residue is left over. Mm-hmm. It was different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. I was considering the horns, and there was another horn, a little one, coming up among them, before whom 3 of the first horns were plucked out by the roots. And there in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking pompous or arrogant words. Once again, giving us a description of these things. Now, these are things to look at. The beast is exceedingly strong, yet weak. And we can look at Daniel chapter 2, verse 41. Let's go to Daniel chapter 2, and let's look at verse 41. Once again, giving us a description of what we need to look for in order to substantiate and to stand on our cause.
God, it is so.
And it is so. All right.
So.
You have it?
Yes.
All right. Read that one.
And whereas you saw the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as you saw the iron mixed with miry clay. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is
All
so.
right. Now, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but anybody knows when you start mixing minerals and you start mixing different irons with, and it's kind of like watering it down, it makes it not as strong. You know, gold, unless you have 24 karat gold and you get it from the original, the right source, if it's watered down, it's gold, but it's not going to be that expensive. 10%, 10 karat gold is not pure gold, because the 90% is something else. 10 karat gold is only 10 karat weight of it. The 90% is another kind of mineral that works well with it. It's only kind of like gold plated. But if you get 24 karat gold and it says raw or pure gold, you know you got something. Am I saying 10 karat gold ain't worth nothing? No, I'm not saying it, but it's not as valuable because it's not pure gold.
Yeah.
So the more carat weight in it, the more expensive it is. Same thing with a diamond. It's important that we understand these things. So as we look at here, we're seeing what is going to make it weak. Are y'all following me?
Yeah.
All right. Now, also dreadful and terrible. It breaks, wears out governments. It is different from the previous three. The little horn sprouting out from this is the anti-Mashiach. Very important. When I say anti-Mashiach, I'm talking about the once again the anti-Yahush. Are you hearing me? Anti one that is coming to be against an adversary, against the Mashiach. All right. Islam fits all the above and much more. The 10 horns are 10 kings, leaders with nations, and Daniel mentions a plucking that was to take place of 3 of these 10 nations. These are the nations that represented these 10 horns that were formed. Now we're going to look at the 10 that were formed, and then we're going to also do the breakdown of the 3 that were plucked out. But their plucking out did not mean that they were totally removed. They were basically not dissolved, but they were brought into one. They became one people or one nation. Okay. Now, Turkey, Syria, Lebanon, Mitzrayim, which is Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Iran, which is Persia, Mosul was plucked, Basra was plucked, and Baghdad was plucked. These are the 3 that were plucked. Mosul, Basra, and Baghdad were carved out from the region of the east by the British government in 1922. But these 3 horns or powers were not even able to establish their roots, just as Yahuwah said in the writings. The biblical word in Aramaic for pluck is akar or akar, which means to pluck out. That is, not allow it to be established. So these 3 were never established. So they, because of they were not powerful enough, they end up becoming one. They end up becoming one. This is only place that was found the word in the writings, this word in the writings, and it was used in such a sequence. There are other Ibram words for pluck that could have easily been used in the Ibram, such as nasa or kala, but they are not used here because the word akar is very descriptive of the action that was to take place. Note that 3 nations, Mosul, Basra, and Baghdad, or the 3 horns that were plucked, were made into a single state called Iraq. Incredible that they were not allowed to become separate powers, just as Daniel said. Now, if we didn't understand this and know, we wouldn't know how to put this together. We would know that Iraq was a combination of these 3. Mosul, Basra, and Baghdad. Are y'all following? That these are one. Now, in order to understand the 4th beast, we must first look at the first 3 beasts. In Daniel chapter 7, let's go back to chapter 7 of Daniel. And we're going to look at verse 4. Daniel chapter 7, and let's look at verse 4.
And it is so.
All right. Everybody has it? All right. Now, in Daniel chapter 7, verse 4, it says, the first was like a what? Lion. The first was like a lion. The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. I was looking until its wings were plucked off, and it was lifted up from the earth and made to stand on 2 feet like a man, and it was given a man's heart. Chapter 7, verse 4. The first was like a lion. Now you see the description. You hear me? The description, very important. The description. This is very important that we understand. Now, this is Iraq, the Babylonian Empire. Daniel chapter 7, verse 5. Let's go to Daniel chapter 7. We're going to stay right there for 1, 2, 3, 4 verses. All right, let's read verse 5. And it is so.
And it is so.
And behold, another beast, a second like to a bear. And it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it between the teeth of it. And they said thus to it, Arise, devour much flesh. And it is so.
And it is so. Now, the second is Medo-Persia, today's Iran and the Kurds. And we talked about the Kurds about a couple of weeks ago. We've understand and we see what their position is. All right. Now, let's read Daniel chapter 7, verse 6. All right.
Daniel chapter 7, verse 6. After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. And it is so.
And it is so. Once again, description, giving us a description of these things. All right. Now, verse 6. Let's look at verse 6. Mm-hmm.
Verse 6, chapter 7.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I looked, and there before me was another beast, one that looked like a leopard,
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
and on its back it had 4 wings like those of a bird. This beast had 4 heads, and it was given authority to rule.
All right. Let's read verse 7. I'm sorry.
After that, in my vision at night, I looked, and there before me was a 4th beast, terrifying and frightening and very powerful. It had large iron teeth. It crushed and devoured its victims and trampled underfoot whatever was left. It was different from all the former beasts, and it had 10 horns, and it is so.
And it is so. Now, once again, verse 6. After this, I looked, and there was another like a leopard. The third is the Grecian Empire, ruling from Turkey all the way to Pakistan. Daniel chapter 7, verse 7. After this, I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, exceedingly strong. The 4th beast is Islam, that shares the region of the Eastern Roman leg, not the European Roman leg. The Eastern Roman leg, not the European Roman leg. It's important that we understand that, because when you start talking about the European Roman leg, that's where you start getting into Roman Catholicism and then believing that it's coming, the anti-Mashiach is coming from Rome and that area or that region. Not so. Okay. Now, the question is, have you ever wondered why the 2 major battles after World War I and II were being fought in the Arab lands? This is because all the action of the end time battle is going to take place in the East. So our eyes must be firmly focused on the Eastern nations, and especially Yasharal, which remains Yahuwah's ticking Yahuwah remaining Yahuwah's look like an L because they're ticking prophecy time clock. The Master Yahuwah said to his disciples in the writings of Matit Yahu. Now it's important that we understand once again, very important for us to understand. Unless we have Yahush in our lives, where do we get our understanding from? Let's look at, I want us to go to Yehukanan, Aleph, chapter 5. And I want to read something to you. I think it's in verse 19. I'm sorry, in verse 9. No, verse 20. I was right. Verse 20. When you have a saying, it is so. Verse 20.
And it is so.
All right. Somebody read that for me.
And you read it out, chapter 5, verse 20.
Mhm.
And it reads, And we know that the Son of Power has come and has given us an understanding, so that we might know the true one. And we are in the true one, in his Son, Yahushua Mashiach. This is the true power and everlasting life.
And it is so. Has come and has given us an understanding. So unless we have him in our lives, we have no understanding. How are you going to understand end time prophecy if you don't have him in your life? It's important that we understand that's how we get our understanding, through Yahushua, our Mashiach. Right. All right. Now, and once again, it's important. Now, when you look at Nebuchadnezzar's dream, and I really wanted to have this on a bigger a poster. Preferably, I'll be able to get one by next week so that you can see the dream and you can see the figure and see the top. When I was in Christianity, I would always wonder, okay, I see this figure and I see these times and I see the elements of each one of these figures. And I'm trying to figure out, what does each one of these elements mean? The clay, why is it gold? Why is it bronze? What's going on with these things? So when you look at the head, it's gold, and that's Babylon, Iraq. The chest plus arms, that's silver, Medo-Persia. The belly and thighs, that's brass, that's Grecia. Legs, iron, Islam, Eastern Rome. The feet, red clay surrounding Arab nations against Yasharal. So it's important that we are able to understand the makeup. Are you hearing this? Of this, the vision that he has. He sees this man and he sees all these, the portions of his body broken up in elements. You're following me? It's important we understand those things. All right. Now, let's go to Daniel chapter 2, and we're going to look at verses 37 to 45. Daniel chapter 2. And we'll read, give everybody 2. All right. So, all right, now we're going to start at verse 37. Yeah, let's do verse 37 all the way to 45. So we're going to do 2. Yeah, do 37 and 38.
And it reads, Your Majesty, you are King of Kings. Yahuwah Elohim has given you sovereignty, power, strength, and esteem. Wherever people live, or wild animals, or birds of the air, he has handed them over to you, who made you ruler over them all. You are the head of gold. And it is so.
And it is so. All right. 39 and 40.
But another kingdom will arise after you, inferior to yours. Then yet a third kingdom of bronze, which will rule over the whole earth. But the fourth kingdom will be as strong as iron, just as iron crushes and shatters everything. And like iron that smashes, so will it crush and smash all these.
And it is so. All right. 41, 42.
And whereas you saw the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. But there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as you saw the iron mixed with miry clay. 42. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. And it is so.
And it is so. And here it says partly brittle. You ever seen something that's brittle? When it's brittle, it breaks real easily. It's really brittle. You know, when you're working on that hair and they say, oh, your ends are brittle. And you know, after a while, you don't get them things straight, it'll start breaking your hair off. It's brittle because it's easy to break. It's not strong. The consistency is not good and strong. So we're getting a view of each one of these kingdoms in their time frame. Okay, come on.
Verses 43 and 44.
Mhm.
And whereas Esau's iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. But they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. And then in the days of these kings shall Yahuwah of Shemaim set up a kingdom, which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. And it is so.
And it is so. All right, now I'm going to read it again from the book that I'm reading from. It says, "You, O King, are a King of kings, for the power of Shamim has given you a kingdom, power, strength, and esteem. And wherever the children of men dwell, or the beasts of the field and the birds of the heaven, or Shemayim, he has given them into your hand and has made you ruler over them all. All you are the head, this head of gold. He's giving him that time is showing us that he was the head of gold. He's the head. Then, but after you shall arise another kingdom inferior to yours, then another, a third kingdom of bronze, which shall rule over all the earth. And the fourth kingdom shall be as strong as iron. And anybody know how strong iron is? Iron is stronger than gold.
Okay.
Gold is not a strong mineral. It is an element, or I'm looking for a metal. Isn't a gold is a metal, right?
Yeah.
It's a metal, but it's a soft metal.
Mm-hmm.
Iron crushes and destroys everything. Iron, inasmuch as iron breaks in pieces and shatters what? All things. So he's showing you that what took place and what's going to take place again. And like iron that crushes, that kingdom will break in pieces and crush all the others. Whereas, verse 41, you saw the feet and toes partly of potter's clay and partly of iron. Clay and iron will not mix. It's not going to mix. The kingdom shall be divided, yet the strength of the iron shall be in it. Oh, yes. The strength of the iron shall be in it. So where it's weak, it's still going to be strong because of the iron, which represents what? A people. Represents a people. Just as you saw the iron mixed with the ceramic clay. Yeah. And as the toes of the feet were partly of iron and partly of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly fragile or brittle. It's going to be strong in some areas, and then it's going to be fragile and brittle in other areas. Are y'all following me? As you saw iron mixed with ceramic clay, they will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not adhere to one another. Just as iron does not mix with clay. It's not going to mix. That means what? It's going to be fighting and carrying on. And in the days of these kings, the power of Shemayim will set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people. It shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Inasmuch as you saw that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, excuse me, and that it broke in pieces the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great power has made known to the king what will come to pass after this. The dream is certain and its interpretation is sure. Now you got to understand. I'm going to read this again, verse 45. Inasmuch as you saw that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it broke in pieces the iron, it broke something stronger than itself. Because stone is not stronger than iron. Are y'all hearing me? It's not stronger than iron. But this was carved out without hands. And what did it do? And that it broke in pieces the iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold. The great power has made known to the king that will come to pass after this. The dream is certain and its interpretation is sure. Anytime you see that at the end, that means it's done. There's nothing to add and there's nothing to take away from it. This interpretation is sure, final, done. Are y'all following me? Very important. Now, as we read Daniel chapter 2, verse 45, that all these kingdoms broke in pieces together. The iron, the bronze, the clay, the silver, and the gold. In other words, though the empires such as Babylon, Medo-Persia, and Greece came and went, but these three empires continue in the fourth beast with the Eastern Roman leg, that is Islam. Because Islam occupied all the eastern regions of these empires. That is why they can continue. And so the final end happens when the Mashiach returns to remove the last empire. And many of us, if we don't follow the news and we don't really see, and we just kind of say, that's some old crazy people, because we get so caught up in, them, and, the comedians saying they run around throwing rocks and sticks at, tanks and stuff. And these people are stupid. These people are not stupid. They have an agenda.
Okay.
And understand they are well organized. These people are not to be underestimated.
Right.
They have survived, and they're in every part of the world, believe it or not. Now, don't be fooled by the ones you see, like Farrakhan and some of the rest of them that say, we are about peace. They are not about peace. They're not about peace. Are y'all following me?
Yeah.
They're about war, and they're going to make it known even the more. I know people are a fan of Farrakhan, and they just love Farrakhan. And, Farrakhan be dropping the knowledge, and he be bringing the truth. No, he don't. He brings what he wants to get you all razzle-dazzled into believing, oh, man, he got it. To take you off focus and to trip you up into believing that this is what the Muslims are about. Muslims, real Muslims, are not about peace. They are about bringing they're about bringing a change, and they're about conforming people to serve and believe the way they believe. Are y'all following me?
God.
And we cannot afford to be sidetracked and believing that it's all about peace, because it is not.
That's right.
They'll kill their own to prove a point. So don't fall for that, y'all. The next picture shows how these empires have consolidated in the East. The Western power base of the Roman leg is actually also in the East, with the nations such as Libya, Tunis, Morocco, Mauritania, and Algeria. These are the 5 toes of Western Rome. These are the 5 toes of Western Rome. And so I want to stop there, because I don't want to give you too much at one time, but just enough for you to eat and to pray about and to meditate on, and understand that everything we need is in the writings, and having the right interpretation of these things helps to secure us. Because without this, we would be in trouble. I'm a quote like G.I. Joe said, knowing is half the battle. And when you know something, it gives you the upper hand to where now you know how to prepare yourself. You know how to prepare yourself. And those around you that will be willing to listen. You got so many people believing, oh, we ain't got to worry about that. That doesn't concern us. Yes, it does. And for everybody running around here, because my friend, my partner, my best friend, he's a Muslim. And, Muslim people, they sweet people. They some of the most friendliest, kind people in the world. Okay. Okay. Believe that if you want to. Y'all know, if you look in your communities and really start looking, they have moved into America like crazy. They're buying up land, old gas stations, and they are positioning themselves in America. You have to ask the question why, because they know something is about to take place. We don't want to sit around here acting like ain't nothing gonna happen. Are y'all following me? Very important. But once again, just enough to help you in this time to understand where to look for the information, credible information, so that you can have evidence as well as proof that what they're trying to promote and say is not right. If they're not telling you that the anti-Mashiach is going to be Islamic, and that's the reason that this person and these people are coming from, then you're in the wrong place. You're in the wrong place. Writing the scriptures support that these people are Islamic and not European by nature, by culture, and by if we look at it geographically. It's not the right people. So we've got to be willing to receive the information, digest the information, and not brush it off and write it off and say, I don't care what information you give me. I know we were told, we're going to be raptured out of here, and, and that's wrong. And it's already set in stone, and the government is going to be trying to give us a mark. The government can't give you something they don't have the authority to do so.
Right.
They're not given. They were not given this authority, so it's not in their hands to do so. So once again, knowing is half the battle. Take the information, read it, continue to pray over it, and continue to stay alert and stay awake, and know that this is the hour and the time that we must be alert and be prepared. Very important, because it's a bad thing. It would be a bad thing for that place. Anybody heard of Ramfant? I think that's what how you pronounce it, Ramfant.
Ramfang.
Ramfang. It's a place where a military place. And after this, after they were overran and everybody was killed, and they were really devastated, they made a point that from now on, when people got into the military, that they would go through basic training. And I don't care if you're a secretary, you know how to use a gun. When they got overran, nobody knew how to use a gun. Nobody knew anything about tactics or about defending themselves because of their area of work. But now, because of this, they had to have a change of heart, and they started teaching their people how to defend their places. And it's the same thing. In order to be able to defend your way of life, you got to have the right information, and you got to have the right tools.
Okay.
What good does it do to have this information and you can't utilize it? Is that why he speaks the scriptures when he speaks? So about Farrakhan, people in his hand, he got Muslims in his hand, and he got those of us that are awake, some of us, in his hand. And he uses these scriptures at his or to his advantage to keep us imbalanced.
Huh.
You can't tell me you know we're the real people and then you want to stay where you are. One, he stays there because he's afraid to leave. Anybody ever asked him, well, you know, it's we the real people, why haven't you left? Because you know if he leaves, the real people will kill him. See, that's one thing, like the gangs, Crips, Blood, and all the rest of these crazy fools out here. Once in, unless the Abba opens that door and pays for you to get out, you don't get out of that.
Okay.
You walk in alive, but if you leave, you're gonna die. They take it's blood for blood.
That's right.
And the only way you get out of that is Yahuwah brings you out of that through Yahush. But it's the same thing in the Islamic way of life. The real Islamic people ain't preaching and teaching no truth, no peace. They understand, hey, it's about takeover.
Right.
We ain't got time to be telling you we here to cohabitate with you and to coexist with you. You either gonna conform or you gonna die.
That's right.
Right. It's all about the war. And so his spin on it is that he knows that if he leaves, they'll kill him. They will kill him. Nobody's ever asked him, if you know all this truth, why won't you leave? Why won't you leave the Islamic religion? Because that's all that is for them, is a religion. The real way of life is they know that your whole thing is to go take over and basically subdue. He's not going to leave because he knows if he does, he'll lose his life. So he's not willing to do that. He's not willing to lose that.
Okay.
That's why he does what he does. And he's really good at it. Because he throws stuff out there and razzle dazzle and get the people ears all tickled. No, he be dropping truth. But if you dropping that truth, why don't you follow that truth? You drop it.
Okay.
Because he know he's not going to. He's not going to do that. He don't want to. He don't want to do that. So y'all follow truth. And let's stop, trying to get information from this person and information from that person. If you ain't going to tell me about the Torah and show me how to live by the Torah, then ain't nothing you can tell me. Because I don't want to hear nothing you got to say unless you are trying to help me. And that's not what he does.
Right.
New to Farrakhan. Y'all know Farrakhan, if you go back and look in history, Farrakhan became in a position politically and where he is after the death of Malcolm X. Go figure. Go figure. Y'all follow what I'm saying?
Okay.
So you this is something that it's not like people don't know.
That's right.
They know, but you got to understand, people play these games. And people understand power, and they understand that either you in or you out. But either way, he can stay in all day long. And knowing the truth, he's still gonna pay for it. For y'all following me.
Okay.
Because he ain't promoting it the right way. Look
That's
at look up Islam. Look it up. The real nature of Islam. Not that what they want you to believe the nature of it is. Look up the real nature of Islam and you'll see. You'll see.
God.
So it's important for us to understand once again the time we're in, what we need to do, and how we need to get it done. Are we going to still go through some things? Absolutely. But in our going through, it's better to know and be assured that we're coming out on top either way. But when you don't know that, what you gonna do? It's like going to a new city and you trying to find your way around and you have no maps and you have nobody you can ask because you definitely don't want to ask a stranger. I remember one time when we were in Christianity and we were trying to find this pastor's church and we went to this and we were dressed, dressed to the letter. And we go in, my ish goes into the gas station and he goes in and he asks this lady for direction. This lady, because she saw how we were dressed and when we were driving, she said, please, whatever you do not get off this road and do not ask anybody for any information. She said, please do not do that. And we trying to figure out what's wrong. She said, I am begging you, do not. She said, because there are some areas that if you go in dressed like that and driving what you're driving, she said, they will try to hijack you. And evidently they've succeeded numerous times because she was saying, please don't go back there.
Yeah.
So we got back in our car, and because we couldn't find them and it was nighttime, we turned right around and went on back home. Because I'm like, I'm not taking that chance. Especially after I've been warned on what to look at, what to look for, and where not to go. I mean, I'm not gonna, she don't know what she talking about. And then they have us somewhere strung up somewhere, and ain't no more of us because we being stupid because we don't want to listen to what's being told us. And like I say, for all of you that love Farrakhan so much, once again, y'all, don't let this man get you in a situation that could cost your life because you're being foolish listening to him. I know people won't like it because they say, well, you supposed to respect him. He an elder. I respect him and I ain't saying nothing bad. I'm telling you the truth. I'm telling you the truth. He ain't got no business. And the writings say a fool have said in his heart that there is no power. He doesn't believe in Abba Yahuwah. He believes in Allah. So I'm not the fool. He is, because he's playing games. And many of our people let him play them games with their emotions.
Right. That's right.
Oh, he this and he that and he this and he. I know he's not. So it's important that you understand these things. And I know y'all want to rub shoulders with him. And I know if y'all met him, some of y'all be running right up there. Ooh, we just love what you talk because you talk truth. Even the ass spoke truth, but he was still an ass, or she was still an ass.
That's right.
But that doesn't mean you followed her, that he had to follow her. Are y'all following me? And I'm just being real. So it's important that we understand that. Are you hearing me? Very important. Once again, read, continue to pray, and continue to remember the push is on. Work smarter, not harder. I am Aaliyah Yashra, and I am the Morah of Messengers of Yahuwah's Kingdom of Red Belief Congregation, located in South Carolina. I want you to remember here at Messengers of Yahuwah's Kingdom of Red Belief Congregation, this is the place where
the Torah does the body excellent.
Until next time, may Abba Yahuwah Baruch Atah and keep you in his shalom until we meet again. Also, I want you to remember that you've been watching Champion TV. And it is so.
And it is so.
And it is so.